My name is Mary. I'm currently 28 years old. I live with my husband, Bob, who is 2 years older than me, and his parents. Both my mother-in-law and father-in-law have always been very kind to me, and we've never had the typical issues about daughter-in-law. We've been living together for almost a year now, and our relationship has been very good. Just when everything was going well, it was decided that Bob would be going on a long-term business trip overseas. Bob is highly regarded in his company, and it's said that if this overseas project is successful, a promotion wouldn't be too far in the future. So, both his parents and I decided to send him off with our blessings, telling him, "Don't worry about home, just do your best." Now it was going to be just the three of us living in the house. Since we've always gotten along, I thought we'd continue to live harmoniously even without Bob. However, then came my sister-in-law, Kate, and her daughter, Sarah. Kate is 8 years older than Bob, making her a significantly older sister. And Sarah, Kate's daughter, is a 15-year-old middle schooler right in mid-adolescence. Kate had married at a young age and was supposed to be living with her husband, but the sudden arrival of these two left both me and the in-laws baffled. Upon entering the house, Kate started looking around curiously and said,
"It's decent enough. I heard you moved to a new house. It's not remarkably new, but it seems just right for Mom and Dad."
She then smirked. In fact, this was my first time talking to Kate face to face. When Bob and I went to his parents' house to announce our marriage, Kate had said, "It's too much trouble and I'm not interested. I'm not going," and canceled on us. She even skipped our wedding for the same reason. So, this was the first time I was meeting both Kate and her daughter Sarah in person.
"So, you're Mary, Bob's wife? You really do resemble Bob. Nothing special about you,"
she remarked upon seeing me. Despite being at home, Kate was decked out in luxury brands from head to toe. It was clear that she was very confident about her looks. Sarah, her daughter, had a lovely face and wore makeup even though she was still a middle schooler. I was amazed that kids today wear makeup on their days off. While thinking about how amazing kids are these days, I served tea to the two of them. "What brings you here today?" When I asked, Kate said,
We'll be staying here for a while. So, please take care of us."
I was taken back and quickly looked at my in-laws. Both of them seemed surprised and shook their heads in disbelief.
"Kate, don't you and Sarah have your own home? And what about your husband? What does he have to say about this?"
When the father-in-law asked, Kate snorted.
"I don't care about that man. He always scolded both Sarah and me, so we ran away from him. We won't return or contact him until he reflects on his actions."
She then crossed her arms and leaned back on the sofa. I haven't really talked much with Kate, and it's my first time meeting Sarah. But given my first impression of Kate, I feel like maybe her husband just scolded her a little. She even ditched our wedding announcement and ceremony, and even made sarcastic remarks to me, whom she's hardly spoken to. Her attitude is really intolerable. It seems Sarah, seeing her mother every day, has picked up her habits and perhaps has even become rude. She didn't greet me properly and didn't use polite language. Normally, a parent would scold their child for such behavior, but Kate said nothing. Watching them, I felt like her husband just got reasonably mad, and in response, they decided to run away. My in-laws must have felt the same way.
"You shouldn't speak about your husband like that. Talk things out with him properly."
But Kate firmly refused to move from the sofa.
"I've already brought our stuff in the car. I'm not leaving this house and I won't go anywhere else."
She started acting childishly. Both my in-laws and I tried to convince them to return home, but they both began to complain. They began to throw tantrums, and eventually, they threw a clock that was on the table and broke it. To avoid further destruction inside the house, we reluctantly allowed them to stay for a few days. But this turned out to be a bad decision. I work from home, and it seems both Sarah and Kate think of me as a housemaid and feel like they should make full use of me. Especially Sarah, maybe because of her age, was really demanding.
"Hey, Mary. I just got back from school and I'm super tired. Could you at least get the bath ready for me?"
Despite being at work, she just barges into my room. The bath's already cleaned up. All you have to do is press the button to fill it with water. I think even you can do that much, Sarah? I'm not just going to let her walk all over me. Although we allowed them to stay for a few days, we never said they could treat us like servants. Since the chores were being shared by me and my in-laws, I thought that if Kate and Sarah wanted to stay here, they should contribute to the housework too. And expecting the bath to be ready when you come home? Who does she think she is? Despite being a teenager, she has an old man's temper. I thought to myself,
"I can press a button, but Mary, you're super annoying." Seriously, so irritating.
Sarah left the room complaining. Whenever something doesn't go her way, Sarah always runs straight to her mother to tattle. When my mother-in-law made a dish with carrots, which she didn't like, she complains about it right in front of her.
From now on, don't ever put carrots in my food. It's such a turn-off. Why would you add something I hate? I don't even want to eat anymore.
She threw away her food right in front of the person who prepared it for her. This kind of behavior was unthinkable to me and my in-laws, but her mother, Kate, who should have corrected her, said,
Hey, Mom, Sarah's growing. So why don't you make food she can eat? What's wrong with you? Make something she likes.
She blamed my mother-in-law. Kate could just cook herself, but since they've been staying here, she hasn't cooked once. She probably can't cook at all. That's probably why Sarah grew up without overcoming her dislike for certain foods. I wonder if she behaves the same way when dining out with friends. Does she loudly say it's a turn-off in a restaurant and refuse to eat the dish? Frankly, if she were my friend, I'd cut ties immediately. I assumed Sarah probably doesn't have friends as I watched her. I'm not Sarah's mother, so I don't go out of my way to correct her likes and dislikes. But a situation arose where I couldn't just ignore them. I was working from home as usual. I had finished a major task and had just saved the data after submitting a design to a client. Finally done, I exclaimed, rewarding myself with a trip to the local store to buy an apple pie. After purchasing the apple pie and returning home in an excited mood, I brewed some tea and savored the delicious buy. After finishing, I returned to my room with a contented feeling, only to find that Sarah was using my computer without permission. To make matters worse, she had installed and was playing a game on it. Hey, Sarah, what are you doing? I usually use that chair and Sarah was sitting there. I immediately pulled her away from the computer.
Hey, what's the big deal? I'm just playing a game, don't disturb me.
Why are you playing a game on someone else's computer? That's completely unacceptable, isn't it? Moreover, you installed a game without asking the owner? It's awful to snoop around someone's computer. I scolded Sarah. I believe I wasn't wrong in what I said. My computer is high performance and can easily handle games. At the same time, it contains a lot of important work data. If that were accidentally deleted, it would be a big problem. Move. I pushed Sarah off the chair and went to my computer. As I was moving the installed game and its data to the trash bin, Sarah complained behind me.
That's awful. Why are you doing this all of a sudden? I was having fun. What about my game data?
Don't complain after using someone's computer without permission. If you don't want to be told off, buy your own computer and play on that, I said angrily. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, left my room. After a while, I checked the contents of my computer and was relieved to find that all my work data was safe. Just then, Kate barged into my room.
Hey, making my daughter cry. What do you think you're doing?
Kate started shouting at me as soon as she entered the room. I glared back at her. You should discipline your daughter so she doesn't get yelled at and cry. While I was away, she came into my room without permission, used my computer, and even installed and played a game. It's weird enough to enter someone's room without permission, but using their computer too?
That doesn't matter. It's your fault for being jobless and having such a good computer. Besides, it's not a big deal.
Excuse me? Jobless? I've never called myself a jobless. Perhaps Kate saw that I was always home and just assumed I was unemployed. That's probably why she kept giving me various orders. Both Kate and Sarah thought I was a housewife. I was flabbergasted. Even if someone is a jobless, that doesn't mean you can treat them however you like. It's basic common sense, but it doesn't seem to get through to this mother-daughter duo.
Who do you think you are, scolding my daughter even though you're just jobless? You're the one who's truly an embarrassment to society.
Then what about you, Kate? Running away from home because your husband is strict, taking your daughter with you, not working, not doing household chores, and relying on your parents and sister-in-law. Aren't you the real unemployed person here?
What did you say? Shut up. Don't defy me. Leave this place now or I'll break all your things.
Most people know not to break others' belongings, but I wouldn't put it past Kate and Sarah. When they first came to the house, they broke a clock. They would probably break the computer too. So, you're saying I should leave?
Yes, that's right. Hurry up and go.
Understood. I'll pack my things. Give me a moment. I packed the computer I needed for work and stuffed a few clothes into my car. Work had settled down a bit, so I thought, why not take a trip to a hot spring? I entrusted my computer to a trusted friend and headed for the hot springs. After a while, my in-laws returned home. They must have heard from Kate about kicking me out because my mother-in-law called me.
Mary, I'm so sorry. I can't believe she kicked you out. We'll take responsibility and kick out Kate and Sarah.
It's fine, mother-in-law. I decided to relax in the hot spring town since work has been calm. As long as Kate and Sarah leave by the time I return, there's no problem. I could imagine my mother-in-law's voice trembling and her looking pale. In the background, Kate exclaimed,
What? Kick us out? We did you a favor by getting rid of that jobless. Shouldn't you be thanking us?
My mother-in-law sighed deeply and said,
You really have no sense, do you? This house belonged to Mary's late parents, and they left it to her. Our house was to be demolished for urban planning. When we were in trouble, Mary offered for us to live here. Catherine, who inherited this house from her late parents, is the legal owner. And you want to kick her out.
Wait a minute. Isn't she unemployed? There's no way a jobless person can afford to maintain this house.
What have you been saying all this while? Rachel isn't jobless. She's a designer. She's been working from home every day. It's only natural for her to get angry if someone uses her work computer without permission.
A designer. I wasn't informed about this.
You weren't informed because you never tried to know. You didn't even attend the introduction meeting or the wedding. And yet, you dare to barge in and demand to live here. You are shameless.
As she spoke, the mother-in-law began to cry. I figured a big confrontation was coming, so I ended the call and phoned someone else. That person was Kate's husband, whose contact I had just discovered the day before. Turns out, Kate's husband and I work in the same industry, and we've collaborated on a project in the past. It truly is a small world. When I called him, he seemed to think it was for another work-related matter.
Hello, how can I help you? Oh, I had a design project I wanted to discuss with you.
I'm sorry, this isn't about work. Actually, my sister-in-law has taken over my house and I've been kicked out. Her name is Kate and she has a daughter named Sarah.
Kate and Sarah. Kate is your sister-in-law.
Apparently, Kate hadn't shared much with her husband about her family or where they lived. He had been searching for them since they ran away from home. While he knew the location of their old family home, it no longer existed due to urban development. If he couldn't find them, he was considering hiring a private investigator. Kate kicked me out of my house because she mistakenly thought I was jobless. She even threatened to break my work computer, so I'm currently in hiding.
I'm truly sorry for the trouble my wife and daughter have caused. I've told her countless times to change her selfish ways, but she never listens.
It seems likely that Kate and Jack didn't react well to being scolded and decided to run away in frustration.
I'll come pick them up right away. We need to discuss divorce as well.
Divorce, you say?
Yes, I'm hesitant to bring this up with you, Mary, but I've discovered that Sarah isn't my child. I'm planning to divorce Kate and cut ties with Sarah.
Is that so? I thought that maybe Sarah was about to find out that she wasn't her husband's child, so she ran away because she didn't want a divorce. If that's true, she's truly regrettable. She not only deceived her husband but also burdened her parents and sister-in-law. I informed the husband of our address, half exasperated. That very day, I heard Kate and Sarah were taken home by the husband. I felt relieved and went home. 2 months has passed and I received a call from Kate, possibly after finalizing the divorce.
Hey, why is no one at home? I looked through the window, and there's no furniture.
Huh? We sold that house already.
What? Sold it? I was planning to live here with Sarah.
Oh, Bob got promoted and was assigned to the overseas office, so I decided to go with him.
Her? Overseas?
Of course, your parents are coming too. They said they won't be looking after you and Sarah anymore. Bob heard about Kate and Sarah from us.
I didn't know such a thing happened in my absence. Why don't we all live together in Japan where the two of them bother us?
Both his parents and I fully agreed and decided to sell the house we lived in the US. Until we find a house in Japan, we are living in a walk-up apartment. However, it seems Kate mistakenly thought we already moved to Japan and started spreading rumors that we abandoned her. But the people around them also knew about their personalities.
Well, it's only natural for them to be abandoned.
We don't plan to help either. I don't want to be friends anymore, so I'm cutting ties.
Bye. Sarah has a bad attitude, never studied seriously, and always played around. Due to their parents' divorce and financial constraints, she couldn't attend high school and had to work after her middle school graduation. She keeps saying she wants to quit her job, but Kate can't afford to let her quit. No one is willing to help them due to their past selfish behaviors, and they end up in a state where they can't rely on anyone. They live in a rundown apartment and work just to ensure their daily meals. As for me, I continued my designer job overseas and life returned to normal before they came. I want to continue having a fun life with Bob, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law.
I was surprised by what she said, and I nodded in accord. It was too late, even though I hadn't given her words enough thought. Furthermore, she continued with a very astounding statement. I initially asked myself, what is she talking about? However, a tender sentiment was hidden underneath her words. After hearing those words, our lives took a significant turn for the better. I'm Jake, and I'm 23 years old. I ended up working part-time at a resort hotel after college since I was unable to get a regular career. I suppose you would describe me as a part-time employee. I picked the resort hotel because of something that happened when I was a college student. My grandma, who always showered me with affection, died when I was a junior. Despite the fact that my grandmother resided close to a resort region in upstate New York and I lived in New York, we kept in regular contact. Knowing how much she loved me, I felt a tremendous affection for her. Her house was left unaltered for some time after her death. There were debates about whether to sell or rent out her house about the time I was graduating from college. I made the decision to take control at that point. This was primarily due to the fact that I felt somewhat ostracized by my parents and friends after my job search failed, as like our defective goods. My desire to remain in New York had diminished. I reasoned that staying in the city or close to the resort where my grandma lived would not matter if I was going to work part-time. I thus relocated to my grandmother's home, seemingly fleeing the city. I chose to work at this large resort hotel that was within biking distance of her home. I saw a woman strolling by the poolside before it was open to visitors one early morning when I was working at the resort. I yelled, "Pardon me, the pool isn't open yet." "Are you one of the part-timers?" the woman said with a friendly smile. She turned to me, a really attractive woman with a noticeable mole beneath her eye. I tried not to express my surprise when I noticed her long, pale legs sticking out from her skirt. I answered, "Yes, I only started this spring." When she heard this, she grinned, said, "Oh, I see," and held out her right hand to me. Alyssa Smith is my name. The owner of this place has only one daughter, myself. I'm technically an employee, therefore I'm allowed to be here, right? Her name was familiar to me, and the tale of the stunning 25-year-old heiress was widely known. She did, however, work at the hotel in spite of her history. We hadn't met before because I was mostly responsible for cleaning the pool and leisure areas. "Oh, I'm very sorry." I apologized. "It's all right," she answered. "I haven't visited the poolside in a long time either." From then on, Alyssa and I started chatting more often. It seemed Alyssa went to a local college and only visited New York for trips. I casually mentioned that I had moved from New York, which seemed to pique her interest. Alyssa was very friendly and easygoing. About a month after we met, when I was still addressing her as Miss Smith, she corrected me, saying, "You know the hotel CEO is also named Smith, right? Isn't it a bit confusing? Just call me Alyssa. We're around the same age and friends now, so there's no need for formalities, okay?" It felt a bit bold to drop the formalities, but now, 3 months since we met, I call her Alyssa. Ever since Alyssa and I got acquainted, she began showing up more frequently at the poolside, always with a bright smile. Seeing her would energize me for my workday. However, one day in early July, Alyssa came by the pool, but her usual cheerful expression was nowhere to be seen. I was just about to take a break, so I guided Alyssa to the break area and offered her some cold drinks. Even as she sat on the sofa, her face remained downcast. Wondering what had upset her, I finally asked, "What's wrong?" She broke the silence. Can you help me convince my family? Huh? Convince them about what? I asked, baffled. Seeing my confusion, Alyssa quickly added, Oh, I'm sorry. I should have been clearer. I'm facing a dilemma and could really use some advice. It's for the sake of my family. As she shared her story, it turned out that Alyssa's grandmother had fallen ill. She had been battling the illness for a long time, and recently, the doctors had hinted that she might not have much longer. Her grandmother's dying wish was to meet Alyssa's future husband. But Alyssa wasn't currently dating anyone. Thus, her parents had arranged a matchmaking date for her. However, Alyssa said, I absolutely can't stand the guy they set me up with. The thing is, that guy used to bully me when we were kids. I don't even want to see him again. Well, I've heard that those who've been bullied never forget. So, it's not surprising, I replied. Why not tell your parents the truth about it? I tried, but they just brushed it off, saying it was just childhood stuff, Alyssa said with a sigh. I later suggested that she could go on the date and then gently decline, but Alyssa immediately dismissed that idea, not even wanting to see the guy's face. However, her parents had said, if Alyssa has a boyfriend, of course, we won't set up the matchmaking date. But you don't, do you? So, why not just give it a shot? We want to see Grandma happy, and we're worried about your future. What do you think I should do? Alyssa asked, her voice tinged with desperation. I understand my parents' concern for their unmarried daughter, and of course, I want to make Grandma happy. That's why I'm so lost about what to do. I pondered for a while. Convincing her parents seemed the right move, but if they weren't willing to listen, a bold step might be necessary. What about asking someone to pretend to be your boyfriend? Your parents did say if you had a boyfriend, they wouldn't arrange the date. At first, Elisa stared blankly, but a few seconds later, her eyes were sparkling. That's it, she exclaimed, and suddenly, she started taking off her clothes. Whoa, hold on, Elisa. What are you doing? Seeing my panicked reaction, Elisa burst into laughter. Silly, I'm wearing a swimsuit underneath. I'm so happy I feel like taking a slide. Amped up, Elisa headed straight for the pool and swiftly went down the water slide. Her expressive enthusiasm was overwhelming, but even more distracting was the sight of her stunning, bikini-clad figure. Then, with a big splash, Elisa came down from the water slide into the pool below. But then, a little mishap occurred. Her bikini had shifted slightly out of place. It wasn't fully exposed, but instinctively, I covered my eyes with my hand. Seeing this, Elisa casually remarked, "Oops," and quickly adjusted her bikini. As she approached the poolside, a thought seemed to strike her, and she looked over at me with a bright expression. With a sly smile, she asked, "Did you get a peek?" Recalling the earlier sight, I inadvertently replied, "Yes," but I quickly came to my senses. No, I didn't see anything. I swear I didn't see a thing. Amused by my flustered state, Elisa pointed at me and firmly said, "Nope, you saw it. So now, you're going to play the role of my boyfriend." Of course, I tried coming up with several excuses to decline the boyfriend role, but Alyssa's decision was final. And then, 5 days later, I found myself introducing myself to Eliza's parents as her boyfriend. It turns out Eliza's dad is the CEO of the company where I work part-time. Being just a part-timer, I had never met the CEO before. I was nervous, wondering what kind of person he'd be. But contrary to my imagination, Eliza's dad was about 100 times more easygoing and cheerful. Eliza's mom was a fantastic cook and had a gentle demeanor. Both were surprised that Alyssa was dating a part-timer like me, but these kind-hearted folks accepted me warmly without realizing I was a fake boyfriend. It seems they even called off the matchmaking date. I had no idea she was dating a guy from our company. She's quite a handful. Well, please take care of her, her father said, shaking my hand with a firm grip. Her mother served her home-cooked meals, and although I was full, she kept saying, eat up, encouraging me to have more and more. Anyway, they were truly wonderful people. I also met Eliza's grandmother, who I heard was sick lately. She seemed to be feeling better, showing a more lively smile than expected, which was a relief for Elisa. Elisa's grandmother gently took my hand and caressed it. Are you Elisa's fiancé? Well, not exactly a fiancé. Given that I was just pretending to be her boyfriend, I was quite puzzled, but Elisa came to my rescue. Grandma, he's not a fiancé. He's my boyfriend. Elisa's grandmother chuckled and nodded. Right. I forgot. It's great to meet you. Thank you for coming. And your name is? It's Jake. Upon hearing my name, her grandmother looked surprised and said, Oh, are you from around here? I used to live in New York, but now I live in my grandmother's house, which is near Resort Hotel. She listened with interest to my story. Could it be the house with the large cherry tree in the garden? I was taken aback by her words. It was true that there was a cherry tree in the garden. Considering it's a small town, maybe she knew my grandmother. I wanted to ask her about it, but before I could, Elisa and her parents called me over. I didn't think it was a big deal, so I didn't pursue the topic further. After that, I had a pleasant time chatting with Elisa's family. Just as I was about to leave, Elisa's grandmother whispered something in my ear. You're not a real boyfriend, are you? What? I was completely taken aback, realizing that our fake boyfriend plan had been exposed. Haha, I can tell. Is it the wisdom of age or something? The way you and Elisa interact, it seems a bit off. Did Elisa ask you to do this for me and her parents? Well, yes, I foolishly nodded in agreement. But the grandmother was still smiling warmly at me. I'm sorry for putting you in such a situation, but Elisa is a really sweet girl. Please continue to be her friend. And I'm glad I got to meet you too. Thank you. It seemed that the grandmother had figured out Elisa had set up the fake boyfriend plan out of kindness. She didn't blame either of us. Afterwards, the grandmother told me to keep it a secret from Elisa that she had figured it out, so I did. Though we managed to avoid the matchmaking meeting successfully, a few days later, during my day off, I received an unexpected call from Elisa. My grandmother's condition has worsened, and she's been rushed to the hospital. I got a call from home. What should I do? I can't bear the thought of something happening to her. I had never heard Elisa sound so panicked and on the verge of tears. Calm down. Where are you now? I'll get a cab and pick you up. Then we'll go to the hospital together. I couldn't let her go to the hospital alone in such a state, so I hailed a taxi. After picking up Elisa, we hurried to the hospital where her grandmother had been taken. In the taxi, Elisa, who seemed to have been holding back, started to break down and shed tears. She was so lively before. It's not going to be our last goodbye today, is it? I'm scared. What do we do? Elisa's hands, resting on her lap, clenched tightly. I placed my hand over hers, trying to reassure her. Everything will be all right. Plus, I'm here with you. You're not alone. It'll be okay. Throughout our drive to the hospital, I kept speaking comforting words to Elisa. Once we arrived at the hospital, we couldn't see her grandmother right away. Throughout the day, the grandmother's condition didn't improve, and our days were filled with anxiety. During that time, I stayed close to Elisa as much as possible. Hey Jake, I'm sorry for keeping you with me all the time. You must be tired, right? I think I can manage on my own now, Elisa said. Her face betrayed her attempt to be brave, showing her underlying fear. To begin with, I was happy that Elisa relied on me when her grandmother was taken to the hospital. If being by her side could ease Elisa's worries even a little, I wanted to be there for her. It's okay. I'm concerned about your grandmother and about you. I want to be here, I replied. With those words, I stayed by Elisa's side. 3 days after the hospitalization, The grandmother's condition finally stabilized, and we were allowed to visit. Right after the visit, the grandmother looked frail, which made me anxious. However, as the days passed, she began to recover. By the end of 2 weeks, she had regained her cheerful smile. The doctor told us that the worst was over, and the likelihood of her condition worsening abruptly was low. One day during our visit, the grandmother looked at Alyssa and me and gave us a mischievous smile. "You two, things are going well, huh?" she said. At that, both Alyssa and I blushed. In fact, since Alyssa's grandmother was hospitalized, I realized I wanted to be there for Alyssa, to support and protect her. So, after hearing from the doctor that her grandmother's condition had stabilized, I confessed my feelings to Alyssa. It turned out Alyssa felt the same way about me, and we had just started dating a few days ago. "It seems there's no keeping secrets from the old lady," she chuckled. "Ha ha. You two make a lovely pair. Instead of just being a boyfriend, I'd love for you to be my grandson-in-law soon. Besides, if you're Terry's grandson, I'm sure you'd make Alyssa happy." Hearing that, I was taken aback. I remembered the sound of the name Terry. A few of my grandmother Thera's friends had referred to her as Terry during her funeral. Alyssa seemed just as surprised. "Who's Terry?" "Jake's grandmother." Alyssa's grandmother nodded emphatically. "Of course I do." As the story went, my grandmother Thera and Alyssa's grandmother had been childhood friends. Both were born and raised in the same small town in Nebraska and later married there. Even in their golden years, they frequently met up for coffee and chats. Alyssa's grandmother often heard stories from my grandmother about her adorable grandson. Embarrassingly, my grandmother would tell Alyssa's grandmother things like, "My grandson wouldn't hurt a fly, and he sends me flowers on my birthday. Isn't he sweet?" Hearing those stories, I remembered my beloved grandmother Thera's gentle smile. Unfortunately, during my grandmother's funeral, Alyssa's grandmother had been unwell, so she had never met me. We used to joke that it would be nice if our grandchildren got married someday. "It's like a dream come true for me and Terry, thanks to you too," she chuckled. We exchanged a glance and shared a laugh. Neither of us had known that our grandmothers were childhood friends, but we both realized that we had been recipients of their love, which warmed our hearts. Sometime later, Alyssa's grandmother passed away. It was a sad time, but in her last moments, she wore a contented smile, surrounded by her family. I felt blessed to have been accepted as part of the family to bid her farewell. I then started working full-time at Alyssa's father's resort, having started out as a part-timer. Being seen as a potential future son-in-law, I've been put through the ringer every day. Watching me push myself to the limit, Alyssa always greets me with a bright smile. "You used to just coast through when you were part-timing, remember? Now your expression is completely different. It makes me so happy thinking you're doing all this for our future together," she said. Hearing her say that, I feel like she's become even more radiant lately. That's another reason I'm so driven in my job. I want to become a man worthy of standing by her side. Once I feel I've truly come into my own, I plan to propose to Alyssa and get married. When that day comes, Alyssa and I intend to visit the graves of our grandmothers and give them our heartfelt update. I'm sure both of them would be overjoyed about our marriage. So, how did you find today's story? Your subscription and a thumbs up would be a great encouragement for our content creation. We're looking forward to your comments as well. See you in the next video. The early mornings at work are my favorite. I believe that I like the calm atmosphere. I open the window a little to let in some fresh air and water the potted plants beside the window. This routine hasn't altered since I began working for this organization. I'm 30 years old, and my name is Tom. I work for a large general trading company as a salesperson. Month after month, I constantly have the lowest sales performance. My coworkers and bosses don't think well of me since they think I'm unmotivated. Actually, I have no interest in working or moving up the corporate ladder. My primary responsibility has shifted to running small errands for my colleagues who are out on sales calls, because I tend to be a bother when I go with them. Live moderately and live quietly without drawing attention are my guiding principles. But this year's transfers brought someone who seemed intent on appending my peaceful existence. "You're early again today, Tommy," she replied with her upbeat greeting. She put her thin arms over my neck. The warmth of her body on my back was palpable. "Good morning, Jessica." Without coming across as harsh, I unwrapped her arms from around my neck and added, "You're energetic early in the morning." Jessica is her name. She moved here in the spring and is now our supervisor. She's 4 years older than me, has lived overseas, and speaks 3 languages fluently. A real talent. She is well liked by both men and women due to her direct nature and constant cheerfulness. Additionally, she is an excellent superior, and within a week of her hiring, those who had initially objected to having a female boss gave up. Or why is it so cold? I pushed Jessica's arms away, and she pouted, "There's nobody else here." She seems to like me for some reason. I am merely an ordinary office worker who is not very good at his job. She, however, is a true career lady and a go-getter. Why she is so obsessed with someone like me is beyond me. "That isn't the point, Jessica," I said. "I don't like how touchy-feely you are." I've been expressing this more assertively over time. I was initially just confused and unsure of how to respond. You would blush at first, and it was adorable. "However, you've been a little naughty lately," Jessica remarked as she sat down next to my desk and fully reclined in the chair. Her spine cracked, and I could hear it. It's likely that she worked through the night yesterday. In our department, she is typically the first person to arrive, and after me, the last one to exit. "You know I have to spell things out for you, right?" I sighed as I spoke. Speaking your mind is fine, but treating me unfairly, that's not cool. She retorted, puffing out her cheeks, and gave a little kick to the chair I was sitting in. Her gesture reminded me of a sulking child. It's a side of her completely different from her professional demeanor. Honestly, I can't wrap my head around why such a talented and beautiful woman, 4 years my senior, is so aggressively pursuing me. The entire department has come to recognize and accept this dynamic between Jessica and me. I find this situation deeply concerning. I constantly worry that being around a guy like me, who lacks motivation, might tarnish her reputation. Yesterday, I even found myself making a wish at the local chapel, hoping to get back my peaceful days. Anyway, no excessive PDA. I told her in as cold a voice as I could muster. A disgruntled all right came in response. Truth be told, it's not unpleasant having a beauty like her make advances. However, the drawbacks are significant. I get jealous comments from male colleagues and recently from a junior, Emily. Time and time again, I stress that I just want to lead a peaceful, inconspicuous life while sneaking a glance at the back of Jessica, who was stylishly dressed in a slim-fitting pantsuit. I sighed again, watching her always so cheerful. Having spent time abroad as a child reminds me of a past I'd rather forget. I think only the HR folks at work know this, but I'm actually a Richie from overseas. I spent my childhood constantly moving from one foreign country to another because of my dad's job. I didn't come back to the US until I was 15. Being right smack in the middle of my teenage years probably didn't help. Having lived in multiple countries, I was a social butterfly. I thought I'd fit right into an American high school in no time, but reality wasn't so straightforward. I made friends quickly, and at first, I think my life in the US was smooth sailing. The one person who brought my high school life crashing down was a single girl. Hell began when I was in 11th grade, and she ended up in my class. For whatever reason, she had it out for me, stuff like, he's flaunting that he lived abroad, or he's too cocky and flashy, or he just doesn't get it. Being the queen bee at the top of the school hierarchy, She probably thought she could get her way with everything. The moment she spoke against me, my life changed. No one would talk to me or even make eye contact. Everyone was scared stiff of her. Then I realized if I tried to talk to my close friends, they'd get a hard time too. From that moment, I became invisible. It lasted until graduation. I declared to my dad that I would never attend a college in the US around that time. True to my word, I left for the UK right after high school graduation. Later on, I got into the University of Oxford. I only came back to the US because my mom wanted me to. My mom, who was in poor health, I think was feeling a bit vulnerable. I wasn't mature enough to refuse such a request from her. Remembering my high school days, I made a promise to myself on the day I started my job to always stay under the radar, a presence that wouldn't disrupt my peaceful days. What should I do about Jessica, a thorn in my side? Then, one day, an even bigger problem stood before me. It was a scorcher of a day, and my colleagues, who had been outside on assignments, were chugging down cold water as soon as they returned to the office. I was in charge of on-the-job tasks, so I prepared chilled wet towels for them and did everything I could to support. I always made sure never to take center stage in my duties. Tom, a customer specifically asked for you. My junior, Emily, approached me with a puzzled look on her face. It made sense. Nobody had ever specifically asked to speak to me for a business discussion before. Emily seemed a bit worried as she whispered to me in a voice others couldn't hear. "Are you okay?" "I'm not sure, but I'll meet with them anyway," I said, trying to reassure her. I lightly patted little Emily's shoulder, but she seemed to remain concerned and followed behind me. It looked like she intended to join me. I felt like a failure of a senior to have my junior this worried about me. Taking a deep breath, I said, "Excuse me," before knocking. A young woman's voice from the reception room responded, "Please come in." At that moment, cold sweat ran down my back, and I felt a slight dizziness. I instinctively wanted to run away, not understanding why. The moment I bravely opened the door, I was frozen on the spot. How many years has it been? You didn't even attend graduation. I was worried if you were even alive. Bright red lips uttered those words. Despite her flat, easy makeup, it suited her queenly demeanor perfectly. Lucy, lounging on the reception room sofa, was the very person who had brought about my downfall. Lucy, she was the last person I ever wanted to see. I probably looked quite shaken, and from behind, Emily asked again, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I responded and took a seat across from Lucy, saying, "Excuse me. When I saw you in the hallway earlier, I didn't think it was really you. I mean, who could have imagined back then that you'd be working for such a prestigious company?" Her condescending and arrogant tone was unchanged from our school days. She looked at me with a mocking upward glance and smirked. She seemed like a predator who had just spotted its prey, making my heart feel like it was going to jump out of my chest. Though I felt the need to say something, my mouth was dry, and no words would come out. Lucy enjoyed my distress, grinning broadly. I tried to remind myself I'm not that high school kid anymore. "Excuse me, did my subordinate do something rude?" I hadn't even noticed when Jessica entered the room, so hearing her voice nearly made me jump out of my skin. "Who are you?" Lucy asked with a frown, glaring at the sudden appearance. It seemed like she was annoyed, thinking her fun had been interrupted. "I'm Jessica, Tom's supervisor. Tom rarely handles business meetings, so I hope he wasn't rude to you." Her face was smiling politely, but her eyes weren't. It felt like sparks were flying between Lucy and Jessica. After a tense moment, it was Lucy who broke first. "Fine, I'll let it slide this time. Our companies have had a long-standing relationship since my father's time. Let's keep it that way," Lucy said, standing up and exiting the reception room with the click-clack of her heels. Quickly, Emily went to see Lucy out. The sound of the door slamming shut was the cue that allowed me to finally relax. Considering my unusual reaction, there would likely be questions from Jessica. The sinking feeling of having to explain my past to her weighed me down. Apparently, she's undergoing code training. She may come around again, but you don't have to deal with her, Tom. Let's have Emily grow into the role instead, Jessica said with a reassuring pat on my shoulder. Feeling the warmth of her hand, I was on the verge of tears. In the end, Jessica never asked me the reason I was upset that day, and we finished our day's work. I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. At the meeting the next day, it was decided that Emily would handle Lucy's account, and I was designated as her backup. I briefly explained to Emily that Lucy and I were high school classmates from the previous day's events. Emily seemed to have picked up on my reluctance to deal with Lucy. I'm truly grateful for Emily's hard work. She tried her best to cater to Lucy's needs so I wouldn't have to face her, I explained. If there was any mistake, as her senior, I'd have to represent the company in front of Lucy. Emily carefully continued the dealings with Lucy's firm. Initially, Lucy demanded me, but when she realized her requests were being denied, she began other tactics to annoy us. She started bringing non-native English speakers to business meetings, sometimes just acquaintances, and at times introduced them as co-owners. Emily could handle Spanish, French, and Chinese, but occasionally Lucy would bring along someone who spoke Italian, Portuguese, or Japanese, which Emily couldn't handle. In such cases, Jessica quickly stepped in to support Emily. I felt guilty watching this, knowing I couldn't help. I felt bad burdening my junior, Emily, and worrying Jessica. I kept thinking I was a failure as a professional. One day, our always cheerful Jessica was out sick with a fever. It's rare for her to call in sick, so everyone was concerned. According to Emily, she was overworked and sleep-deprived, leading to a weakened immune system, and she caught a cold. Though it was an unfortunate situation, I hope she'd take a good rest. If Jessica isn't here to help and Lucy brings someone I can't communicate with, Emily gazed anxiously at the words "Jessica absent" written on the whiteboard. Her fears became a reality. Well, I, who rarely go out for client visits, was out assisting a colleague. Lucy suddenly arrived with a troublesome matter. When I returned to the office, I could hear Lucy berating Emily throughout the floor. Rushing into the room, Emily was flinching, being yelled at by Lucy. It seemed that today's negotiation required Italian, and Emily's weakness was exposed. You do realize this is a trading company, right? How do you work here not knowing Italian? Or are you just looking down on us? Lucy yelled at Emily without a second thought. Her face didn't show a hint of anger. She was grinning with a nasty smile, seemingly enjoying the situation to the fullest. It looked as if she had found her prey. Your usual helpful supervisor isn't here today. I heard she's feeling under the weather. Can't even take care of her own health. That's so third-rate, Lucy said. Beside the sarcastic Lucy was a young Italian, who didn't seem to understand what was going on, nervously watching Emily and Lucy. He was probably dragged here against his will by Lucy. Well, speak up. Can't do business with someone I introduce you to, or are you going to apologize? Lucy continued, explaining that she didn't understand. With Emily's head lowered, Lucy tapped her on the back of the head rhythmically with a rolled-up document. Emily's back visibly shivered. Colleagues observed the situation from a distance, running around searching for someone in the other departments who could speak Italian. Meanwhile, Lucy's attitude kept escalating. Can't even explain? Come here right now. Saying this, she forcefully pulled Emily off the couch. The moment I saw that, something snapped inside me. Is there an issue here? I quickly brushed off the hand Lucy had on Emily's shoulder and shielded her behind me. Oh, Tom, long time no see. Are you here to play in her place? Lucy, finding a new target, had a cruel glint in her eyes. Ignoring her completely, I'd addressed the fled young Italian man. Are you interested in doing business with our company? Of course, I wasn't speaking in English, Italian flowed naturally for me. The young man seemed relieved to finally hear his native language. On the other hand, Lucy was stunned, staring at me in disbelief. The young man excitedly began explaining the plan he had in mind to me, looking at me engaged in the conversation. Emily seemed genuinely surprised. All this time, she thought I was just some guy who did menial tasks by the window, but suddenly, I was speaking Italian fluently and handling the negotiation. I can't blame her for being taken aback. During the negotiation, Lucy seemed to be glaring at me resentfully. In the end, the young man and I shook hands, laughed about the potential for a big deal, and wrapped up our discussion. Emily escorted the young man to the front door as he wanted to report the outcome to his boss right away. Back in the reception room, Lucy and I couldn't tear our eyes away from each other, locked in a standoff. Nothing's changed with you. Still haven't grown up. I was the first to speak. The Lucy who I once found intimidating didn't scare me at all today. Perhaps successfully navigating that tough negotiation boosted my confidence. Excuse me, what are you trying to say? Lucy, seemingly caught off guard by my comment, retorted in a flippant manner. She still carried her usual high and mighty queen attitude, but I could sense a hint of panic and fear. What I'm saying is that you're acting childish, still pulling the same stunts as you did in high school without considering your age, I continued. Once I started, I couldn't pull back. Words I had been holding in for so long came pouring out. Oh, so you always have someone by your side because you haven't improved your Spanish at all. Must be tough babysitting an EPT like you. Don't you realize you're a burden? I figured out pretty early on that Lucy wasn't proficient in Spanish. She probably couldn't speak Chinese either. Being the daughter of a trading company CEO, Lucy likely had the stamp of failure pressed upon her. Acting tough probably masked her insecurities. I realize this now, maybe because I've grown up. What do you know? She hurled the paper she was holding at me, her voice shaking with anger. Her clenched fist trembled. Just because you can effortlessly speak other languages, you think you're so great. Give me a break. Lucy's yelling sounded more like a desperate scream to me. Looking back to high school, I realized that the reason Lucy treated me so poorly was probably due to her own insecurities. I only found out that her father was the CEO of a trading company after graduating from high school. I vaguely recalled that Lucy struggled greatly with her Spanish classes back then, but that's no excuse for the way she treated me. Deal with your own issues yourself. You're a grown-up after all, I said. My words made Lucy's face turn beet red. She must have felt embarrassed being called out like that. She grabbed her bag from the couch and stormed out of the reception room, the sound of her heels echoing on the floor. I thought maybe I was a bit too harsh, but I didn't have the luxury of choosing my words carefully, and it's not like I didn't have any grudges. I hope she forgives me for being a tad bit sharp. Why did you keep quiet about being able to speak? Are you still hiding something from me? Suddenly, I heard Jessica's voice from behind and instinctively turned around. There stood Jessica, looking pale. Her lips were of a terrible color. She glared at me with an upward gaze. Jessica, you look terrible." "Of course I do. I'm still running a fever. Got called in despite that, but I'm glad I came. Got to see something interesting," she said as she gently took a seat next to me. Emily, who had just returned from seeing some guests, saw Jessica and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Everyone get back to your work," Jessica said, clearing the reception room. I braced myself for a reprimand. It felt like I was neglecting my duty by claiming I couldn't do what I was supposed to do. I figured I'd have no right to complain even if I got fired for negligence. "You're such a lying prince." Those unexpected words came out of Jessica's mouth. I was dumbfounded and could only utter, "What? Don't you remember me? That's cruel." I looked closely at Jessica's face. She must be feverish. Her face was pale, and only the area around her eyes was slightly red. It looked like she had been crying. Suddenly, memories flooded back. Oh, we've met before, right? I was certain now. The girl with swollen red eyes, crying in a corner of a park in a foreign country, Europe. That image overlaid with Jessica before me. Oh, in Germany, I exclaimed. She smiled warmly. You finally remember. Since that day, you've been my prince on a white horse. When I approached the crying girl, she whispered in a tiny voice, I don't understand. She was acting tough, saying she only needed to speak English and didn't need friends in a foreign land. But tears kept pouring from her big eyes. Being addressed in English must have comforted her. When I was still a young boy, I confidently told her, tears streaming down her face from trying to put on a brave front, a piece of advice my father once gave me. If you can speak multiple languages, the world becomes so much bigger for you. It's a waste to just confine yourself to a small world. Just gather up a little courage and strike up a conversation. I remember looking at her, clearly older than me, and proudly saying those words. Her tears stopped, and I felt relieved. Seeing that, I always wanted to meet the boy from that time again. I remembered his face and name. I thought you looked similar, but your personality seems so different now. I wondered if you really were my prince. Jessica chuckled. The day after I met her, she told me she had gathered the courage to speak to a classmate at school. It was as if a spell had been cast, making the invisible barriers between them crumble instantly. Having parents with jobs that took them all around the world, she had been moving from place to place herself. Comparing our overseas stances, we realized there were times when we almost crossed paths. Quite the close calls. I always thought we had a fateful reunion overseas, but to meet here of all places, it's hardly romantic, she pouted, looking somewhat childish. Truth be told, I often went back to that park, hoping to find the girl I had seen crying, but never finding her. I moved to the next country after returning to the States. I was so caught up with my own life that I never thought of her. It's quite a curious connection we have, I said. I wish I could have come up with something more eloquent, but that was all I could muster. Don't you think it's more like fate than just a curious connection? You get what I mean, right? Considering her perspective, she might be right. I always believed, with no real basis, that I could pull fate towards me. Impressive, right? She boasted, wrapping an arm around my shoulder. Leaning in close to my face, she gave a wide grin. You don't think you can escape, do you, Tommy? You're the one who expanded my world, so you have the responsibility to stay by my side in this vast world. Understand? Such a forceful approach was very much like her, but I didn't mind it at all. With the world being so vast, I wondered how I got caught. Don't you think you're getting a little cheeky? The image of her laughing so hard she'd fall over in a wedding dress was a scene for a not-so-distant future. Running from her, who had strong-armed fate into granting this chance encounter, seemed impossible. I guess if this were a novel, it would be a happy ending. My name is David. I'm just an average office worker. I'm not really into standing out, so I'm pretty quiet at the office. I just get through the work given to me, and if I finish without mistakes, I consider it a job well done. While my colleagues are hustling to climb the corporate ladder, I'm not really interested in promotions. I just hope for a peaceful day every day. Luckily, I ended up working for a top-tier company. I rarely have to work overtime, and I think my salary is pretty decent compared to others at my age. My days are pretty much the same. I just go to work and come home every day, cook up a simple meal, enjoy my dinner while watching TV, and then head to bed. But maybe this monotonous life is what happiness is all about. That's what I've been thinking. I don't have a family anymore. Both my parents have passed away. I still remember that time when I was in second grade. That day, both my parents had the day off, and they went out in their car, saying they had some major shopping to do. They said they'd be back by the time I got home from school, but they weren't back by evening. As night fell, a neighbor lady, Mrs. Wilson, approached me. I had been sitting in front of the house for hours, so she probably got concerned. When I explained the situation, she took me to the nearby police station. I don't know what Mrs. Wilson told them, but I remember the police suddenly getting very busy. They told me that my parents might have been in an accident. I was taken to the hospital by the police. However, upon arrival, I was told the devastating news that both my parents had died. The only thing I remember from the hospital was seeing the bodies of my mom and dad. I can't recall what happened after, like the funeral or what happened to our house. Maybe the mental shock was too big, as I seemed to have lost some of my memories. Next thing I knew, I was in an orphanage. I had no grandparents or relatives, so I had nowhere else to go. There were other kids in the facility, but I didn't really interact with them. I just followed the rules set by the staff and kept to myself. I stayed at the orphanage until I turned 18 and moved out after graduating high school. Maybe I should go to college, was my main thought. With that in mind, I went on to college. Thanks to the savings and insurance money left by my parents, I could attend college without financial worries. Go to school, work a part-time job, come home, and sleep. I became less talkative after my parents' death, and that hasn't changed even now as an adult. I guess I've always avoided interacting with people. Being bad at expressing my emotions probably didn't help. I've never really had close friends, let alone a significant other, mostly just acquaintances. I had always thought I'd probably end up being single, and I was okay with being alone. Even though I was just living an ordinary life, something unexpected happened one day. I'll never forget it. It was when I turned 30. On that day, I was working as usual. Things were going smoothly, and I was having a rather laid-back day. I decided to get some office supplies from the supply cabinet. To my surprise, we were running low on a lot of items. Normally, the newer employees would restock the supplies, but I thought, since I had some time, why not do it myself? So I said, I've got some free time. I'll go get the supplies, and headed to the supply room. As I switched on the light and entered the room, I began to load up a cart with supplies from my list. Then a woman from another department walked in. Our eyes met, and we gave each other a courteous nod. Wow, a pretty girl just walked in. That's what crossed my mind instantly. It wasn't a crush or anything, but I found myself wondering, is she from the next department? I don't recall such a pretty girl working here. Taking a closer look, she had these cute beauty marks under her eyes, which made her already cool-looking eyes appear even more attractive. No, don't keep staring. It'd be so embarrassing if she caught me. I realized I'd been unintentionally staring and felt a rush of embarrassment. Taking a brief deep breath, I composed myself and went back to collecting the supplies. But then it happened. Suddenly, there was a deep rumbling sound followed by a strong side-to-side shake. It was an earthquake. The shaking grew more intense. Being in the supply room, there was a high risk of things falling down. The spot where she and I were located was at the back of the supply room, and the exit was too far. With the intense shaking, it felt too risky to make a dash for it. Cover your head. Use a basket or a box upside down and protect yourself. I shouted instinctively. The tremor felt like it lasted forever, but thanks to the fixed shelves in the supply room, a major disaster was avoided. Supplies were scattered all over the place, but neither of us got hurt. Are you okay? I rushed over and asked her. She seemed fine, replying, Yeah, that was quite a shock. It lasted quite a while, didn't it? She slowly got up and added, It's quite a mess here, but maybe we should head outside first and check on others. Concerned about potential aftershocks and with the supply room door still closed, I started heading towards the door. Oops, sorry, she bumped into my back. Something wrong. Looking at the storage room door, I was taken aback and stood there. She leaned over from behind me and was equally stunned. To our disbelief, cardboard boxes that had been piled near the door had collapsed, blocking our exit. To make matters worse, it seemed a box had opened, scattering promotional items all over the place. "We can't get out this way. Should we clean this up?" she said. She agreed with a sigh, and I started moving the heavier boxes, asking her to pick up the lighter promotional items. Why, of all places, did it have to block the door? She complained but continued neatly placing the scattered items back into the boxes. "Just hang on a bit longer. We'll clear a path to the door soon," I said. I rolled up my sleeves, ready for some heavy lifting. "All right, once we move this, we can get the door open." At last, we cleared a path to the door. Thinking we could finally leave, I twisted the doorknob and pushed. Thud. Huh. A dull noise echoed, and despite several attempts, the door would only open a few inches. "This isn't good," I murmured to myself. Peeking through the small gap in the door, I saw a cart loaded with supplies blocking it from the other side. Other boxes had fallen over in the corridor, making it even harder to access the cardboard boxes, and card had gotten jammed in such a way that the door wouldn't open. I tried jostling the door multiple times, but it wouldn't budge. "We're stuck," I sighed, feeling a wave of despair. But on the bright side, other coworkers were still around. Someone would eventually come. So, I decided to team up with her and start cleaning up the scattered promotional items and supplies. We really got trapped. "Che," she eased, noticing my involuntary sigh, and said in a cheery voice, "Yeah, I really thought we'd get out." I responded, laughing. However, our conversation was brief. We silently continued our tasks. As I was thinking we were nearly done, an unmistakable growling sound broke the silence. I turned my head toward the sound. She looked embarrassed as she held her stomach. "That was mine," she said. "Did you hear that?" Her face turned beech red with embarrassment. "Yes, I heard it loud and clear," I said honestly, and we both burst out laughing. Although we were strangers, that little moment of laughter lightened the mood. While continuing to tidy up, we chatted a bit and shared our names and departments. Her name was Sarah, 4 years younger than me, and she worked in the department next to mine. As we talked, a voice from the other side of the door called out, "Hey, is anyone there?" Peeking through the gap in the door, a voice said, "Hold on, we'll clear the way." A few folks moved carts and other obstacles, enabling our safe exit. Luckily, the earthquake's damage was minimal. Just some items had fallen from shelves and desks. By the next day, we were back to normal. From then on, my days were filled with routine work, yet I would often bump into Sarah, whom I'd met in the storage room, in the hallway, lobby, or the staff cafeteria. I hadn't realized it before, but we had crossed paths frequently within the company. We began greeting each other whenever we met. One day, during lunch while I was eating in the cafeteria, Sarah approached, asking, "Mind if I join you?" We took that opportunity to express our gratitude for that day we spent trapped together. It seemed we never found the right moment to stop and talk about it before. Sarah also wanted to thank me, saying, "I'm so glad you were there with me that day. I'm not sure if I could have gotten out if I was alone in the storage room. You really saved me." From then on, I often chatted with Sarah due to our lunch breaks frequently overlapping. We often eat together or have coffee afterward. Though I was always a bit shy and struggled to converse, Sarah was always proactive in starting conversations, so there was never a lull. Eventually, we began to occasionally dine out in the evenings. It felt strange for a socially awkward guy like me to be out and about, engaging in so much conversation. Somehow, I just clicked with Sarah. After one of our meals, Sarah opened up about her feelings for me. It was the first time that someone had confessed to me like that. I was taken aback, but that's when I realized my own feelings. Soon, Sarah and I started dating. Things moved swiftly, and before we knew it, we were discussing marriage. After a successful proposal, I visited Sarah's parents. On the day of the visit, Sarah's parents, who also lived with her older brother and his wife, warmly welcomed us. While I had planned for a brief visit, they insisted on having dinner together, making me feel right at home. Being a man of few words, I barely answered the family's questions. They even inquired about my family. I answered all their questions honestly. However, a few days after the visit, I received a message from Sarah. Apparently, Sarah's sister-in-law, Lisa, wanted to have a word with me. I wondered if they might be against our marriage, but that wasn't the case. I was told we'd discuss the matter in person, so a meeting was arranged between Sarah, Lisa, and me. On the appointed day, we met at a quiet cafe. Let me get straight to the point. Lisa began, then started asking detailed questions about my mother, when she passed away, her name, maiden name, place of birth, blood type, and more. She also inquired why I didn't have any grandparents or relatives. I answered everything within my knowledge. After a pause, Lisa said, "Look at these photos. Does this woman look like your mother?" She showed me 2 pictures of a young woman who unmistakably resembled my mom. After confirming the resemblance, she took another breath and asked, "You're an only child, right?" When I replied, "Yes," Lisa gave a quiet nod. She took another deep breath and said, "Let me tell you the truth about you," looking me straight in the eye. Confused, I waited for her next words. "This woman," she said, "she's my mother." Lisa's lips trembled as she spoke. I was in disbelief, asking her to repeat herself over and over, but she was unequivocal. "She's my mother." What does that mean? I tried to organize my thoughts as I listened to Lisa's story. Lisa had been told she was an orphan and was raised by her grandparents. One day, while cleaning up, she found a photograph. When she showed it to her grandmother, she hesitated at first but eventually admitted that the woman in the photo was Lisa's mother. She also explained why Lisa had been separated from her parents to start with. Lisa had a brother, 2 years senior. Their mother became pregnant with him at 16. Both parents were the same age, meaning the father was also 16 at the time. The mother was determined to have the child, and the father intended to marry her when he turned 18. However, this was met with strong opposition from the mother's parents. These grandparents were strict and believed in strict adherence to family traditions. Yet, the young mother persisted and gave birth at the age of 16. Afterward, while juggling jobs and having dropped out of high school, she entrusted childcare either to daycare or her parents. The father, on the other hand, continued attending high school while working part-time jobs to make ends meet. Both were genuinely committed to raising their child despite the continuing objections from the grandparents. The young couple had decided they would marry once they turned 18. Then, Lisa was conceived. The news infuriated the grandparents, but the baby was eventually born. This birth took place when both parents were 18, and they intended to register their marriage that very year. However, the grandparents staunchly opposed, especially against the father, whom they perceived as the culprit for their daughter's teenage pregnancy. Frictions became a daily affair, primarily revolving around the children's future and living arrangements. They chastised their young daughter, often remarking, "You're just a child who had a child. Listen to what we say." Still, the determined mother, aiming to keep her family intact, was met with a stern, "Leave the kids and get out. You're disowned." Numerous attempts were made to reconcile, and she tried taking her children with her, but the grandparents stood firm. Ultimately, she was estranged without any contact with her children. I was shocked to learn about the tumultuous past of my parents, and the fact that I had a sibling was a revelation to me. Incidentally, the grandfather has since passed away, and the grandmother, though still alive, is now in a nursing home. Lisa, without mentioning anything about me, had inquired again about her mother. Moreover, given that our grandmother's surname was quite unique, she was certain that they were blood-related. The week after hearing the story, I, along with Sarah and Lisa, visited our mother's childhood home. Presently, My elder brother's family is living in our grandmother's house, and it was the first time I was introduced to him. Following that, Lisa and I went to the nursing home where our grandmother resided. Although hesitant to meet her at first, we decided to have a conversation. Initially, our grandmother couldn't believe my existence and was taken aback. But noticing the resemblance I bore to my mother, she mentioned how much I looked like her. Our grandmother was unaware that my mother had married my father, and she certainly had no knowledge of the tragic car accident that took my mother's life. Hearing this, tears streamed down our grandmother's face. She deeply regretted disowning her daughter due to parental pride and expressed her desire to apologize if given a chance to meet her daughter again. The town where my mother and Lisa grew up was quite a distance from my current residence. Yet, little did I know, my sister lived so close by. That year was not just significant for meeting Sarah, but also for discovering and connecting with blood relatives like my siblings and grandmother. Fast forward a few years. Daddy? No. D. Playing with me. Daddy. All right. Let's all play together, okay. I was surrounded by my children, unable to move. My kids really love their daddy, Sarah teased as she too hugged me. Come on, Sarah. Not you too. Everyone giggles and clings to me. Now, at 38, I'm living a lively life with my 3 beloved sons and my cherished wife, Sarah. We're soon expecting our 4th child. Since then, I've been in touch with my sister, living nearby, and her 3 sons. My children play together as if they were siblings. Though my elder brother lives far away, we, along with my sister's family, visit him annually during the summer break without fail. Interestingly, my brother and I have similar facial features, and even more intriguing is how much my brother's children resemble younger me. When we look closely, all the children share striking similarities. We all look as if we were born from the same parents. We often jest that the bond of blood is indeed mysterious. Despite never having lived together with my siblings, our interactions felt natural from the start. Given how I was never adept at social interactions, we being able to interact well with my siblings surprises me. Having once believed I would live a life of solitude, never did I imagine that, in just a few years, I would be surrounded by the warmth of a family. Life truly is unpredictable. I aim to cherish this unexpected happiness. My name is Travis. Until about a week ago, I was part of a gang, an organization where I was feared as a legendary member. But now that I've turned 40, I decided it was time to stop messing around and return to my hometown to take care of my aging parents. Although I let my parents know I'd be coming back, I didn't tell them exactly when. They're going to be surprised for sure. Thinking about that, I waited for the rural bus I used to ride often as a kid. It's an hour by bus from here. We'd never see something like that in the city. Breathing in the fresh air, I boarded the approaching bus. Inside, there was a mother with a child and an elderly woman. This is a typical small town with a sparse population. After a while, the bus stopped and a man got on. Before the bus could even start moving, he pulled a beer can out of a plastic bag, popped it open, and started drinking. In no time, several cans were empty, and his body began swaying along with the motion of the bus. A child's voice broke the silence. Why does that man drinking so much on the bus? Sheh, don't point at people, the mother said, seemingly wary of provoking the man, and hushed her child. However, their exchange was loud enough for the man to hear. Mom, you said we shouldn't eat snacks or drink juice on the bus, right? So why is that man drinking and eating snacks too? He is. Special. But why is it okay for him? You always say it's not allowed. Well, he probably has his reasons. What reasons? The child persisted. The mother, clearly raising her child well and teaching proper manners, was now at a loss for words. For a child who has been taught the rules and follows them, it must be confusing to see an adult breaking them and getting away with it. As the mother struggled to find an answer, the man stood up and walked over to the kid. "Hey kid, you've been noisy for a while now. I'm sorry. And you," the man pointed at the mother, "if you're going to teach your kid not to eat or drink on the bus, you should teach them to keep quiet too. You're annoying everyone here. I'm sorry." The man shouted angrily at the shrinking mother. Even while shouting, he kept a firm grip on his beer can, which was impressive in its own way. "Honestly, you're raising your kid all wrong. Sure, don't eat or drink on the bus. That's your rule for your family. But I've got my own rules. Don't try to impose your stuff on me. That kind of misguided parenting is what makes life harder for everyone, you know." What an absurd argument. Drinking and eating strongly scented items on a bus could easily make others feel sick. The mother, seemingly unable to argue, simply kept apologizing. Well, she wouldn't be able to say anything, I thought, just as the elderly woman spoke up. "You there. Do you even understand that this bus is for everyone? Eating and drinking such strongly scented stuff here can make people nauseous. That's why you're not supposed to eat or drink on buses or trains. Didn't your parents teach you that? What did you just say? Do you really need a little kid to teach you some common sense?" Just then, the driver slammed on the brakes. Apologies. A raccoon crossed in front of the bus, so I had to brake suddenly. Is everyone all right? Since I, the old lady, and the mother and child were all seated, none of us had any issues. Unfortunately for the man, he toppled over spectacularly and spilled beer all over his pants. It looked exactly like he had wet himself. Damn it. Cold as hell. What's this about a raccoon? You should have just run it over. Because of your stupid brakes, my pants are soaked. Please remain seated for your safety. Safety, my ass. If it's so dangerous, you wouldn't slam on the brakes, would you? I'm sorry, but even a raccoon's life is still a life. And what the hell does that matter? You could have just run the damn thing over. We'll be departing now, so please take a seat. The driver didn't seem to care much about the man's complaints, but the man had other ideas. When the driver turned around, he happened to see her face. It was a face so strikingly beautiful that it seemed impossible for someone like that to exist in such a remote area. I couldn't fathom why someone so gorgeous would be working as a bus driver in a place like this. Hey, lady driver. You're one hell of a looker, aren't you? Thank you. Please take a seat for your safety. You never know what might happen. Yeah, well, nothing would have happened if you hadn't slammed on the brakes. There are times I have to brake, so please stay seated. Why are you even doing a job like this? Hey, I'm talking to you, so answer me. I'm sorry, but I'm on duty right now, so I must decline any conversations. Come on, don't be like that. You're just driving. How hard can it be? I'm responsible for everyone's safety. If I get distracted, it could be dangerous, so please don't talk to me. You're way too uptight. How are you supposed to keep your customers happy like that? I'm sure they don't have a beautiful driver on board with the intention of pleasing customers, I thought. Talking to the driver could distract her. What a nuisance this guy is. Then, once again, the old lady spoke up. Hey, you there. Talking to the driver might distract her and cause an accident, so leave her alone, will you? Besides, standing there with that beer could make someone feel like they're drunk driving, even just from the smell. Drunk driving? How could that happen when I'm not the one driving, old hag? Don't talk nonsense. Some people can get dizzy just from the smell. Move away from there. I like this driver, old hag, so no, I'm staying right here. It's a miracle to see someone this beautiful in a town like this. A once-in-a-century event, I tell you. No way I'm letting this chance slip by. No matter how rare, you're getting in the way of her driving. Now move. Shut it, old hag. I hate being told what to do. Don't push your luck with me. If you don't like it, then get out of the way. Mom, why won't that man listen? He doesn't obey the driver or the old lady. He's a bad guy. Yes, he is, but let's just stay quiet, okay? What a noisy brat. Hey kid, shut your mouth. Adults have their own reasons for things. Keep quiet, or I'll shut you up myself. Sir, please refrain from threatening other passengers. Oh, so you'll keep me company instead, huh? With that, the man reached out and placed a hand on the driver's shoulder. If his hand slipped, or if she startled, she might lose control of the vehicle. The man sneered, a disgusting grin spreading across his face, just as the driver let out a sharp cry. Help! Someone stop him. The driver was unable to act, and the gang-like man was clearly escalating. Whatever he was planning, this couldn't end well. If nothing was done, an accident was inevitable. But the mother and old lady were both women. If anyone was going to stop that man, it had to be me. I stood up and called out to the child's mother, "Get the AED ready." The bus had an AED on board. Though I'd never used one before, if it came down to it, I had no idea how to operate it. Still, the guy had brought this on himself, so as long as I did my part, it wouldn't be my problem. I walked up to the driver's seat and grabbed the man by the shoulder. Hey, you need to knock it off. Ha! What did you just say to me? Do you not get how dangerous this is? Acting like this here is reckless. Dangerous? What the hell are you talking about? His breath reeked of alcohol, making me want to turn my head away. Man, with your booze breath, you're torturing the driver. Don't you think that's way too much? Booze breath? You're so annoying. Stay out of my business. I wouldn't be saying anything if I could ignore this. But if you keep this up, we'll all be goners because of you. Driver, can you pull over somewhere safe? Oh, sure. The driver pulled over to the shoulder, where the landscape was nothing but rice paddies. The sight brought back childhood memories, but now wasn't the time for nostalgia. Once the bus stopped and the door opened, I told the man to get off. Of course, he refused. Why the hell should I get off here? This isn't my stop. If you want to get off, do it yourself. That's not how this works. If you don't get off, there was no point in stopping the bus. I'm not getting off. If you really won't get off, then sit down and stay quiet. No more drinking or eating that stinky crap. Stinky. You've been going on and on about stinky. Shut the hell up. It's stinky, so I'll call it stinky. If it weren't, I wouldn't say anything. And you sticking yourself to the driver is making everyone anxious. If you want to go to the other side, go by yourself. Who said I want to die? You're acting like it, distracting the driver and pulling this crap. If you weren't looking for trouble, you wouldn't do this. Or do you just not understand danger? Even a little kid gets it. Are you mocking me, punk? Mocking you? I'm just telling the truth. If you've got a problem with that, then get off the bus. Oh, so you want to fight me, Fine by me. Nobody's ever beaten me, you idiot. Yeah, now get off. I grabbed the man and threw him out of the bus. The rough-looking man, thrown out, stumbled on his shaky legs, missed a step, and fell onto the gravel road. He came dangerously close to falling into the rice field, but managed to avoid it just in time. Good thing you didn't fall into the rice field. The rice doesn't deserve that. Would have been a shame. Damn it, that hurt. What the hell is your problem? You're the one who fell, idiot. I followed him off the bus, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him toward the back of the vehicle. Let go of me. I'll let go soon enough. I don't want to touch someone as filthy as you any longer than I have to. What did you just say? Listen up. Just because there's a beautiful driver on this rural bus doesn't mean you can mess with her. Do you not get how distracting you are? She should be thankful I talked to her. Are you stupid? Nobody appreciates being harassed. Would you thank a cop for falsely accusing you and tossing you in jail just because they talked to you? That's completely different. It's exactly the same. And let me remind you, A bus is a confined space. Eating and drinking smelly stuff can make people sick. If you can't understand that, don't get on the bus. What? I'll do whatever I want. Didn't anyone ever teach you basic manners? Even if you didn't study, your parents would have taught you anyway. Or were you raised by wolves in the mountains? Of course not. Then use your common sense. Even a kid understands it. You're so damn annoying. You want me to punch you. That's my line. I'm a member of the Henderson family, and you're thinking of picking a fight with me? You've got guts. I'll give you that. Cut the tough talk. Acting high and mighty because you're a gang. That doesn't mean a thing. Shut up. Do you want to find out what happens when a civilian picks a fight with a gang? Too bad for you. I might be a civilian now, but up until just recently, I was gang too. And not just any gang. I was so feared that anyone who didn't know my name was considered a rookie. They called me a legendary gang. If you're thinking about stepping to me, even if you're weaker than a fly, I won't go easy on you. What the hell are you talking about? Big talk for a former gang. I'm an active member. With that, the man swung a punch at me. All the passengers had gathered at the back of the bus, watching through the windows. When the man suddenly lunged at me, they screamed in shock. But there was no way I'd go down so easily. I dodged his punch, landed a heavy blow on him, and followed up with a swift kick. As he staggered, the man toppled onto the gravel. As he lay there, I stomped on his stomach, eliciting a croaking sound like a frog. Nobody can beat you, huh? Too bad for you. Even if there's no one in this rural town to take you down. I'm from the city. And back in the city, there wasn't a soul who could stand up to me. I'm sorry. Do you get it now? Can you behave yourself on the bus? If you're itching for a fight, go pick one with another gang. Yes, sir. All right. I'll let you back on the bus, but if you act up again, I'll personally throw you into the rice field. Or maybe you'd prefer some help from the AED. Not that I know how to use it. So if you die gasping for air, don't expect anyone to save you. Understood. I'll behave. The man repeated his apologies and quietly sat down. I sat beside him, making sure he wouldn't do anything stupid. But his stop was far beyond mine. I'm getting off soon. If I hear about you causing trouble after I leave, I won't forgive you. Yes, of course. For the record, what's your name? I'm James. James from the Henderson family. Got it. I'll remember that. Hey, what about this? I turned to see the child holding the AED. Oh, thanks. Looks like we didn't need it. Could you put it back where it belongs? Mom, he says we don't need it. The mother nodded, bowed slightly, and returned the AED to its place. The bus resumed its journey without incident. When it reached my stop, I gave the man one final warning. He lowered his head in embarrassment. The next day, I was enjoying a leisurely breakfast prepared by my mom, sipping tea for the first time in ages. As I glanced at the local newspaper, a large headline caught my eye. Bus accident. A bus accident. Reading further, I realized it was the same bus I had ridden yesterday. What the hell happened? The article explained that the accident occurred after I got off. The driver had lost control and crashed into a guardrail. The passengers were thrown from their seats, and the driver sustained serious injuries and was now hospitalized. The first thing that came to my mind was the gang from yesterday. I decided to visit the hospital to check on the driver and get some answers. The hospital room was a shared space with a few other patients, but she was hiding behind a curtain, clearly shaken. Hey, it's me from yesterday. Oh, you remember me? Yes. Her voice trembled, and every time she heard footsteps beyond the curtain, her face grew tense with fear. What's wrong? Why are you so scared? I'm scared that man from yesterday might come back. Ever since the accident, I've been terrified. What do you mean? What exactly happened to lead to this? She looked down, hesitating to decide whether she should tell me. If you tell me what happened, I'll do everything I can to help you overcome your fear. I think I can handle it. Thank you. Actually, after you got off yesterday, that man started making a scene, and the bus was in chaos. Somehow, I kept driving, but when we got to the stop where the elderly lady was getting off, I stood up to help her. That's when he jumped into the driver's seat and sped off. He crashed straight into the guardrail. None of us expected something like that, so we weren't braced for it. That child was thrown out of their seat. The elderly woman fell while standing and hurt her back, and I suffered a fracture myself. That man came up to me afterward, not to help, but to threaten me. He said if I told anyone about what happened, he'd come back to kill me. Ever since then, I've been scared he might come for me. So you told someone about the culprit, didn't you? I had to report what happened to the company, so yes, I did. I see. That's how it is. Huh. Do you think he'll really come? What should I do if he does? The sheer audacity of causing such a deliberate accident and fleeing afterward filled me with nothing but rage. Don't worry. If it comes to that, I'll handle it. In a quiet town like this, someone like him has no place. I'll make sure he's dealt with. Thank you so much. Please, I'm counting on you. With those words, she bowed her head to me. As soon as I left the hospital, I headed straight for the office of the Henderson family that man belonged to. The place was as expected for a rural office, an old traditional house turned into a makeshift headquarters. Well, nice setup. But knowing that guy's here makes it unforgivable. I stood at the open entrance and shouted loudly, "Is Mr. Henderson here?" After yelling several times, a young member came out. When I demanded to see Mr. Henderson, he himself emerged from the back. "Who are you? I don't recognize you." "Yeah, I figured. I'm Travis." "And what are you here for?" "You heard about the bus accident yesterday." "Of course. I'm here to talk about that." "I'm not sure what you mean, but come on in." I was allowed inside and guided to a room with a sofa. While Mr. Henderson seemed welcoming, his subordinates were clearly tense, wondering what I was going to do. "All right, so what's this about? Do you have a guy named James here?" "Yeah, James is one of ours. He's the one responsible for that accident." "What do you mean?" I explained everything that had happened the previous day in full detail. I thought that once the boss understood what his man had done, he'd take appropriate action to discipline him. But it seemed I was far too optimistic. "Oh, and what of it?" "What?" "I've got to hand it to you for barging into our turf, but as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care less about what you're saying. Some civilian accused my guy of what? So in this town, gangs don't think twice about hurting civilians. Of course, it's not ideal for us to mess with regular people, but so what? This doesn't tarnish our name in any way. Why should I bother listening to this story and get all worked up over it? At the end of the day, it was just one guy acting on his own. What? That accident caused serious injuries to innocent people. Yeah, and that's no big deal to us. So that's how your group operates. Huh. That's right. There's nothing to worry about on our end. I see I really misunderstood, didn't I? I didn't think a small-town gang like you would be so bold. Seems like you're the one misunderstanding something. This is a gang office. You think you can just waltz in here and demand an apology for something one of my guys did. That's not going to happen. Got it. That makes things crystal clear. In that case, I guess there's no choice but to take down your group. Huh. What the hell are you saying? A regular guy like you thinks he can take us down? Yeah, an ordinary civilian wouldn't stand a chance. But I'm no ordinary guy. I'm an ex-gang member, and not just any ex-gang. I was part of the Kennedy family, one of the most powerful in the city. Taking down a small-time operation like yours? That's nothing. The leader of the Kennedys. That's right, the legendary gang from Kennedy. Finally realizing who I was, Mr. Henderson stood up from the sofa and immediately bowed his head. I can't believe it's Travis from the Kennedys. My sincerest apologies. I've been terribly rude. So now you get it. Yes, I understand completely. If it's you, taking down our family would be child's play. So please, I beg you, spare the Henderson family. There are a lot of members who would be left in ruins if we were destroyed. Yeah, I figured. So how are you going to make this right? Hey, call James. Tell him to get here immediately. At the boss's command, a young man scrambled to make the call. James arrived quickly, but when he saw me sitting on the sofa, his face turned pale with shock. James, what exactly did you do in that bus accident yesterday? I didn't do anything. Travis here knows everything about what you did. However, James seemed convinced that I had no idea what happened after I left. So, he spewed nothing but convenient lies. Knowing the truth, I approached James, grabbed his hand, and faced him directly. James, if you don't tell the truth, this hand of yours might not work anymore. Ow, ow. What are you doing? I'm telling you to speak the truth. If you keep lying, this hand is going to bend in ways it was never meant to. All right, fine. Nothing much happened after you got off. The only thing was that the pretty driver suddenly veered the bus and crashed into the guardrail. Is that so? Oh, stop it. I told you what would happen if you lied, didn't I? Okay. It was me. After you got off, that pretty driver wouldn't listen to me. So when she stepped away from the driver's seat, I took over and drove it into the guardrail. Thanks for finally telling the truth. You could have avoided the pain if you'd been honest from the start. I can't believe this. Did you really do something so stupid? I'm sorry. Not only is what you did unforgivable, but lying to me, your boss, right to my face, that's just as bad. Now that we got the truth, it's time to pay for the damages. You'll cover the compensation for the driver and the passengers, along with the repair costs for the bus. Wait, what? Compensation. $100,000 per person. That's 4 people, so $400,000. $100,000 each. That's insane. Plus $600,000 for the bus repairs. That's a total of $1 million. What? You've got a problem with that. That's just impossible. Oh, is that so? How about we make it $2 million instead? No complaints. But how soon do you expect me to pay that? There's no way I have that kind of money right now. I'm not giving you a second chance. Whether you've got the money or not is no longer my concern. You can't be serious. A small-town gang family like us doesn't have that kind of cash lying around. Is that so? Then I guess there's only one option left. You'll have to pay with your life. My life? Mr. Henderson, please loan me the $1 million. This guy is serious about coming after me. What makes you think we've got that kind of money? No matter how much you hustle, there's no way we can pull together that kind of cash on short notice. Travis, please. I'll work to pay it off. Just don't take my life. I'm begging you. You think I have the patience for that? I'm known for my short temper. If you can't pay now, I've got a loan shark I can introduce you to. He'll front you the $1 million immediately. A loan shark? Serious? Yeah. Big city gangs go to him whenever they need quick cash. Are you serious? Fine. Please introduce me to him. All right then. I'll set it up for you. I pulled out my phone and called the loan shark, explaining the situation and requesting the $1 million loan. The loan shark promised immediate funds and arranged to take James off my hands. After withdrawing the money, I headed to the hospital. I'm Keith Johnson, and this year marks my 42nd birthday. I started working at a trading company as soon as I finished from college, but I was completely unprepared for the change. After 12 years in the trade company, I currently work at my uncle's coffee shop. I was a bit of an unemployed person. I got disinterested in everything, and even interacting with people became terrifying. One may readily characterize my way of life as secluded. My uncle, a coffee enthusiast who founded his own specialty store, was the one who saved me from this. I began helping out in the shop a little haphazardly at first. However, I quickly discovered that the appeal of coffee was enthralling me more and more. In retrospect, I firmly believe this was my uncle's plan. I'm inherently shy and have trouble relating to others. I was shy and introverted. Even though I'm 42, I've never had a girlfriend. I know, it's embarrassing. But there's a reason for this, and I must correct the record. The majority of the people in the home where I grew up were women. I was left with my mother and two strong-willed sisters after my father died of illness too soon. In addition, I had two younger sisters who were even more aggressive. To put it mildly, my apartment at home was tiny. Being surrounded by strong women as a child made me respect and fear women. I became a man too scared to go near them. I don't mind the older women who frequent the store, but that's about it. I am even referred to as Keith in passing by Emma, a girl from the neighboring primary school. That demonstrates my inferior status. Coffee aficionados congregate at my uncle's coffee shop virtually every day. I still have a lot to learn because many of them are much more knowledgeable than I am. At work, I can't function without a notepad. I write down everything I see or learn to help me remember. It's what my uncle refers to as my secret notebook. I was holding my notebook and examining new coffee beans one day when the doorbell jingled. "Excuse me, hello." When he saw me, he pushed his wheelchair closer to the desk and greeted me with a smile. With just his arm power, he moved from his wheelchair to the counter stool with ease. He completed it easily, as usual. Alex Miller, who uses a wheelchair, is a frequent customer of the store. I wasn't sure how to behave when we first met. Shall I assist him? If so, how could I help him? I was just able to worry. Alex, as today, sat down at the counter and chuckled as I stood there fretting. Don't look at me like I'm performing a circus act. Alex and I became close friends the moment we met. For me, Alex, a frequent customer and coffee enthusiast, is a wealth of information. I listened to Alex offer his wisdom since I was eager to learn everything. Alex is only 28 this year, which makes him 14 years younger than me, but he appears much more mature than me, even though we are great friends. He seems to have had a much richer life than I have. Alex was usually happy, even though he likely had problems he couldn't talk about. He's the type of guy who finds it funny that I gave up my work and spent a few years at home. At the moment, Alex works from home as a translator and frequently stops by the shop to rest. He frequently uses his laptop to work at the counter till closing. Many of our frequent clients are Alex supporters as well. It's a little daunting how polished and ridiculously attractive Alex is. He and I once went clothing shopping together. My go-to outfit for formal occasions is now the one Alex picked out for me. It's just waiting for the right occasion. However, even Alex, who is perfect, has a weakness. Alex has a twin sister. He just doesn't seem to be able to handle her. I've been to Alex's house a few times. I've met his mom, but I've never met his sister. I heard some somewhat scary rumors from our regular customers around the same age at the shop. The most common rumor is that she used to be a punk. I didn't ask Alex directly, but I heard this from our regulars and the clerk. As someone who's not good with women, assertive women are my worst nightmare. I swore to myself that I would definitely keep my distance. Who would have thought such a turn of events was waiting for me? That day, after working at the shop until closing time, I drove Alex home. His home is on the way, so it's no big deal to drive him. At the entrance, I ran into Alex's mother, Marianne, who had just come back from her part-time job. It had been a while since I last saw her. Marianne has a strikingly beautiful face. As we were making small talk, Marianne suddenly clapped her hands together as if she had an idea. Then she said to me, "Keith, would you like to go on a blind date?" I was flabbergasted at the sudden proposal, but Marianne, with a grin on her face, moved the conversation forward. Basically, she was suggesting that I go on a blind date with the rumored sister. The words ex-delinquent almost slipped out of my mouth, but I managed to hold it back. Alex said, "That's a great idea." Surrounded by the parent and child, I felt cornered with no way out. She's a bit older, but I think a gentle guide like you would be perfect for Evelyn. That was the first time I learned her name. Apparently, she's currently living alone and working as an office worker at a printing company in the neighboring town, Nebraska. The fact that she hasn't been around since she started working only fuels the ex-troublemaker theory, but I don't know anything about her and shouldn't assume her thoughts on this matter too. Marian smiled at my fled response. Everyone's a stranger on a blind date. It'll be fine. I had no rebuttal to her completely reasonable opinion. In the end, they kind of pressured me into agreeing to meet her sooner. The sooner, the better, they said, and the date and location were decided on the spot. Marian was quick to set everything up before I could change my mind. The following Sunday, a somewhat fancy cafe in the middle of a park. That's where I was going to meet Alex's sister for a blind date. The weather was incredibly nice, and the park was filled with families. When I told my uncle that it was a blind date, he let me have the day off without a second thought. Alex would be there too, figuring I'd be nervous at first. I wore the outfit Alex had chosen for me and waited for them to arrive. "Keith, sorry to keep you waiting," Alex's voice called out. I turned around to see Alex in his wheelchair smiling. Standing behind him was a woman who looked just like him, a real beauty. Upon seeing her, I was momentarily lost for words. I thought, I've never seen such a beautiful woman before. She had the same face as Alex, whom I was so used to seeing, but she was incredibly beautiful, and she looked very grumpy, probably forced to come here by Alex. Her face seemed to be saying, "I'm not happy about this." "Oh, this is my sister Evelyn. She's a 28-year-old office worker," Alex introduced. Evelyn gave a small nod in response. I nodded my head and mumbled, "Nice to meet you." I was already nervous about this blind date, and seeing such a beauty made me lose my words. "Are you both nervous?" Alex teased without missing a beat. Evelyn's hand slapped the back of Alex's head. She's quick, I thought. There might be some truth to the rumor that she used to be a bit of a wild one. "Don't tease people like that," Evelyn said in a slightly husky voice. For someone like me, who isn't a fan of the high-pitched voices typical of some girls, Evelyn's voice was perfect. I don't remember much of what happened after that. Alex kept the conversation flowing, and Evelyn, and I responded with yes and no. That was our blind date. When Alex left, we sat in silence, and time seemed to stand still. Thank you for today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day off too." Evelyn's eyes met mine as I began to stutter, feeling as though I was being stared at by her. My words trailed off. "No, I should apologize. Alex and the others pushed you into this," Evelyn said, bowing her head. She seemed far removed from her wild past, which left me speechless. As I sat in stunned silence, Evelyn stood up quickly, grabbed the check, and said, "Well then." Before leaving, her brisk movements didn't give me a chance to stop her, leaving me stunned. I didn't expect to be left alone, and she even paid the bill. At least the blind date mission was accomplished. I gazed at the park, thinking that as long as we had met, Alex and the others would be satisfied. The next day, when Alex came into the shop, he asked me about what happened after he left. But there was no progress and nothing to talk about. Evelyn left before me. I said, trying not to look at Alex. He then handed me his phone. "Call Evelyn and set up the next date," he said. I pushed Alex's phone back, repeating, "I can't do that." She seemed so unhappy, and I was sure she didn't want to see me again. I let her pay for the coffee, even though she's 14 years younger, and I figured she must be annoyed. As we shoved phones back and forth across the counter, the doorbell rang, announcing a customer. "Welcome," I said reflexively, greeting the customer with a smile. Then I froze. There she was, Evelyn, with a sour look on her face. I nodded to Evelyn and moved over to Alex. "Evelyn, are you off work today?" Alex asked, surprised to see her out and about on a weekday. "I took a day off," she replied. "You see, there was a solo exhibition for Professor. But more importantly, you shouldn't be going out dressed so lightly," she added, placing a blanket on Alex's knee. In her hand, she held a small silver oil heater. She probably brought it because she was concerned about Alex, who tends to feel unwell when it gets cold. "Oh, the wood carving exhibition, right? It's next week, isn't it?" Apparently, she had come to help set up the wood carving exhibition that starts next week at the community center. Evelyn, a graduate of a fine arts college, seems to have majored in wood carving. It's difficult to make a living solely from it, so she's now selling small wooden carvings as a side job. I have some of my works there too. You should check them out, Evelyn said with a light smile. Her whole demeanor changes when she smiles. She has a beauty that seems somewhat irritable when she's not smiling, but when she smiles, she looks cute. It's a softer image than I had of her during our blind date, and it's quite a pleasant surprise. Maybe this is where I need to muster up my courage. I plucked up the courage to speak to Evelyn. Thank you for the other day," I said. Evelyn, upon hearing my sudden address, seemed taken aback. Her shoulders shivered. Without looking at me, she answered in a small voice, "You're welcome." For some reason, I didn't feel like she disliked me. I might be conceited, but she seemed shy. "Would you like to go out sometime?" I blurted out the words before I even realized it. It seems like my desire to know more about her got the better of me. Seeing her surprised look, I pressed on. Eventually, after my plea to go out on another date, Evelyn gave in. This was the first time I had ever pleaded so earnestly with someone. Of course, this was all thanks to Alex's support. I don't think I could have invited her out on my own. Our date was set for 3 days later. The meeting time was in the evening after work. I waited for her in front of a bookstore, our designated meeting place. She arrived right on time. It wasn't as tense as a blind date, but I was feeling jittery and couldn't calm down. Well, it was my first date, and I was nervous, so she probably felt the same way. I booked a Vietnamese restaurant, keeping in mind her preferences. This was also thanks to Alex's advice. Even after we arrived and settled at the restaurant, she seemed a bit jittery. She seemed disinterested in what I was saying, and I stopped. I wanted to feel sad. The conversation wasn't flowing, and she wasn't eating much despite ordering a course filled with her favorite dishes. She seemed to find dining with me very unpleasant. She must have agreed to this date reluctantly because of Alex. As I thought about this, I started to feel more and more downcast. I had mustered up all my courage, but it felt like I had swung at thin air. "I'm sorry. Sorry. I think I forced you into having this meal with me," I said, putting down my chopsticks. Evelyn, who seemed surprised, looked at me. It might be the first time today that our eyes met squarely. "I'm sorry, too. I wasn't really paying attention," she quickly apologized. Being considered by someone younger made me feel pathetic. It must have shown on my face. She looked at me with a truly apologetic face. "I promise I won't invite you out again, so please relax," I said, managing a smile. In response, she placed her hands together and bowed her head in front of me. "I'm really sorry. I'm so distracted thinking about Alex's date," Evelyn said, bowing as if praying to me, apologizing again and again. Tonight, it seemed Alex was also going on a date with a girl, and apparently, it would be their first time going out, just the two of them. Alex was undoubtedly popular, but he never had a girlfriend. He told me once that he didn't want to bother the person he liked because he often had to be mindful on dates. That's why he didn't have a girlfriend. So this was Alex's first date. I could understand why my sister Evelyn was on edge. I mean, there are many obstacles like restrooms, steps, and stuff, right? I'm just worried if Alex might mess up in front of the girl he likes. Considering this, I made a suggestion to Evelyn. Well then, let's go and secretly watch over Alex's date. Evelyn looked puzzled at my suggestion and exclaimed, "Huh." She probably never imagined that I would suggest such a thing. I quickly stood up with the bill in my hand. "You know where they're having their date, right?" I asked. Evelyn nodded affirmatively and took my hand. I had heard that she did wood carving, and her palm, full of calluses, proved that she was serious about it. I was somewhat pleased to discover this new side of her. The place where Alex and his date were was close to the restaurant where we were dining. It was an Italian restaurant, well equipped with accessibility features. I had gone there with Alex a few times. Peering through the large window, I could see Alex and her. People passing by gave us suspicious looks as we hid across the busy street, secretly watching them. From what we could see, there didn't seem to be any problems. He was with a cute girl reminiscent of cotton candy. They looked like a perfect couple. I thought Evelyn's concerns were unfounded, but as she continued to intently watch the two of them, Evelyn's expression was dead serious. At that moment, I wondered if this might be the reason for the rumors about her past as a delinquent. "Hey, can I ask you something?" I asked. "What?" "I'm a bit busy right now," she replied, still focused on watching Alex. Watching over Alex in his company, Evelyn was indifferent to my questioning. "Is the rumor about you being a former delinquent true?" "What? Are you crazy? You just asked this to me." Taken aback by my question, Evelyn unintentionally stood up and shouted. Realizing that she would be noticed by Alex and his date if she wasn't quiet, she quickly crouched down and glared at me. "I don't fully understand what delinquent means, but I am not one," she said. So, I asked her why such a rumor had spread. She puckered her lips in irritation. "The reason for it all was a fight with a classmate back in high school," she said. "There was a girl who often bothered Alex. One day during gym class, that girl purposely blocked Alex's wheelchair with her belongings, making it impossible for him to exit the classroom. Alex attempted to get past the items, but ended up toppling over with his wheelchair. When Evelyn found Alex in this state, she was livid and attacked the girl. She dragged the girl through the hallway to Alex and forced her to apologize. The girl cried loudly, refusing to acknowledge what she had done. Evelyn, who dragged the girl around while she was crying out loud, later became a feared entity. It's said that this is where the rumors of her being a former delinquent started. She admits that she may have gone too far, but smiled and said she had no regrets. She probably thought that girl was trying to get Alex's attention. Evelyn said she also came to that conclusion as an adult, but she couldn't forgive it. So, the supposed ex-delinquent sister was just a sister who loved her little brother. The misunderstanding somehow made me chuckle. As I was laughing quietly, Evelyn smacked my back. "Evelyn, would you seriously consider dating me? I know I'm like an old man to you, but what do you think?" She widened her eyes in surprise at my confession while I was crouching hidden behind the shrubs. No good. I gave it another push, and Evelyn stood up, brushing off the fallen leaves on her knee. She started walking, so I hurriedly followed her. As we walked shoulder to shoulder, Evelyn looked up at me from the corner of her eye. Then she said, "Show me that thing of yours." "Excuse me." "Here. Now. You showed it to Alex, but not to me," she whispered harshly. I gulped. "Show me that notebook." By that, Evelyn meant my notebook, where I jot down what I study about coffee. I had shown it to Alex once, and apparently, Evelyn had heard about it from him. I wondered why she wanted to see such a thing. While puzzled, I pulled the notebook out of my bag and handed it to Evelyn. Taking the notebook, Evelyn sat on the edge of a flower bed and started flipping through it. After about 5 minutes, she looked up from my notebook and smiled. "You passed." "What?" I asked. Evelyn returned my notebook to me with a smile. I was clueless. "Looking at this notebook, I can see what kind of person you are, Tay. I can tell you're very sincere and serious. Is this what they call hot and cold?" Suddenly, my heart started pounding. "So, I'm sure there are many things I don't know. But please take good care of me," Evelyn said, bowing her head to me. The sudden turn of events left my mind reeling. "Does this mean you've agreed to be my girlfriend?" I couldn't help but confirm, and instantly, I felt an impact on the back of my head. It seems she still had the habit of hitting first. That day, we talked about our dreams for the future. I had a dream of becoming a barista. Evelyn had a dream of becoming a wood-carving sculptor. When it comes to talking about our dreams, we both get excited. Evelyn suggested making a competition out of who could realize their dream first. I agreed. It was a moment that I convinced myself to become a barista seriously. There exists something called barista study abroad, where you intern at overseas cafes and gain professional knowledge as a barista. Half a year after starting to date Evelyn, I was in Italy. Even before me, she quit her job and started working as a wood-carving sculptor in earnest. I couldn't stand the idea of being left behind, so I decided to study abroad. Knowing that if I went abroad, we'd end up in a long-distance relationship, I expected her to stop me. But Evelyn kicked me out the door with a push on my back. I wanted her to say she would miss me a little, but her apparent relief was just like her. Yet, being cheerfully sent off made me feel like I was being brushed aside. She hardly ever reached out. After my internship ended, I kept dragging my return home and started avoiding meeting her again. I kept thinking, what if she's disappointed in me? Or maybe she's not contacting me because she found someone else. For half a year, another half a year, I ended up spending 2 years in Italy. I had also earned a few barista qualifications that are recognized in Japan. I could return home now, but I couldn't make up my mind. Plus, I was a little sad to leave Italy. I had been working part-time at the same long-established store where I did my internship. The chime of the doorbell rang out in the empty cafe, signaling the arrival of a customer. As I lifted my face from the coffee I was brewing, I saw an unbelievable face. It was Evelyn, who was supposed to be in Japan. She had become even more beautiful over the 2 years. With a glare fixed on me, she sat down across the counter, right in front of my eyes. "You've kept me waiting too long," she said, still glaring at me as she thrust a flyer in front of my eyes. The flyer was for Evelyn's solo exhibition in New York. I realized in an instant that Evelyn had achieved her dream. "I'll treat you to a cup of coffee," I said calmly, suppressing my joy, and started working with my hands. Evelyn seemed a little displeased that I wasn't flustered like before. "Well, you'd expect some changes after spending 2 years in Italy," I said. "Smooth interaction is also necessary for a barista." Evelyn waited for her coffee with a pout on her beautiful face. I thought it ruined her good-look face. I placed a latte with latte art in front of Evelyn. Upon seeing the latte art, Evelyn muttered, "Damn it." I almost laughed at her adorable frustration, but I was nervous too. The latte art on the latte I handed over read, "Will you marry me?" Evelyn stirred it violently with her spoon, pretending not to see. She drank the latte in one gulp with a look of indifference on her face. "I'll have to treat me to another 100 cups to make up for the wait," she said. "I'll write it as many times as it takes until you're satisfied," I replied. Evelyn seemed pleased with my words and nodded. Then she whispered, "Don't forget what you just said." I got Evelyn's consent to our marriage 3 days later. When I murmured, "You fell pretty easily, didn't you?" she hit the back of my head with surprising force. I guess she remained aggressive for the rest of her life.